everybody. Welcome to City.AI. This is the, I guess the conference section, so if you're standing up, I would recommend getting a seat. Mainly because what you're going to hear will knock you off your feet, I'm sure. So please do grab a seat, some seats at the front. Don't need to stand near the food, it's not going to go anywhere, don't worry. So again, welcome. This is the second Wellington City.AI event. City.AI is a global community of applied AI. There are groups like the AI Forum who have a role to talk about the ethics and the fear and everything else that the media likes to talk about in terms of the clickbait and headline grabbing. That's not to say it doesn't have a part to play, it absolutely does. But City.AI, we're focused on the application of AI. Getting to the bottom of the challenges, the opportunities, sharing some of the lessons that we've learned, and contributing to a community of applying AI to real-world challenges. And so we're aiming to have quarterly events. The last one in November was here, was fantastic. We will be having the next one in June, I think. And one of the key things that City.AI can do is really connect the global community. I'm not sure how many countries they're now in, but I'm pretty sure we're still the only one in Australasia, which is good for us and sucks for everybody else. But there's a lot of content that City.AI is putting out, and it's a really rapidly growing community and really very active. So just to give a bit of a rundown on this evening's event, actually hands up who was here for the last event. Oh nice, fresh blood, awesome. This is great, so I mean that just shows that we had kind of about the same number in November, so there's only a small overlap, so it's really good to see that the community is growing. So we've got a slightly different format, only very slightly. We've got 3 presentations this time. We've got Simon, we've got Kameron, and we've got Drew. And then one of the key differences to this event compared to others, it's not just a sit on your bums and listen. It is much more interactive. We break into, this time we'll be breaking into 2 groups. There'll be one group in here and one group next door where some of you put forward challenges, and we'll be discussing 2 of those challenges to explore the challenge, to look at the possible solutions to those challenges, and then really begin to refine and discuss some of those challenges. This is not a hackathon, it is a brain exercise, but it's really a way to kind of bring both domain experts, technologists, those in the sectors that the problems exist, to really try and bring everybody together. So that's the peer-to-peer, not beer. Beer's the bit at the end, which is where the networking is. So then it's beer-to-beer after that. So first up, we have Simon. Oh no, wait a minute. Let me just tell you about the 40 cities we're in. Done that already. This is the team that was involved in setting it up. All of whom, apart from Emma, are here today. These are the very important event supporters. So you can see the banners here. Twitter HQ have really thrown in some resources, which is great. Thank you guys. We've got Lunar Estate again. Project, of course, is fantastic space. If you haven't been in here before, really do take a look around. It's fantastic. Place for VR, AR, and also AI. And of course, we're enjoying the Tuatara beer already. Okay. So we're going to have 3 presentations. The first is by Simon, who's a data scientist at Xero, on how do we regain the understanding and trust in AI. Then we're going to have Kameron come up and talk about the unsexy solution to dirty data. He's the man for that. And then Drew's going to be here from StatsNZ Data Ventures on making a smart decision, the case for AI in government. So again, a nice broad range, pretty, really interesting. And appreciate all of you joining us to present. So, first of all, please put your hands together for Simon.
Cheers. G'day, I'm Simon. I work at Xero, just across the road there. I guess we're building...
Is your microphone on? Because we can't hear you very well.
Shall I project a little more?
Yes.
Thank you.
So yeah, what I'm doing is building ML solutions at Xero, trying to make it smarter, trying to do more accounting for you. What I'm talking about tonight is not a very technical subject. It's more on some of the, I guess, softer side of it in terms of how users relate to our email products. So, what you can see here is one of the first feature films. It's called As Seen Through a Telescope. And you're seeing about 20% of the film right here because it was only a few minutes long. But even in this small section, you're seeing two revolutions in film technology. First, you're seeing a cut, right? So it's cutting from one shot to a different shot, which had never been done before. And the second thing is this close-up, this sort of scandalous view of a woman's ankle, had also never been attempted before. So it seems very straightforward to us, but at the time, it actually required a lot of intuitive understanding from the audience that they'd not had to do before. Understanding that the second shot related to the first shot, understanding that what you could see in the second shot was what the man was seeing through the telescope. And so what has happened in the years since this film is that we have all learnt how to view films. We've learnt at an almost subconscious level how to understand the language of film. And what I argue in this talk, I guess, is that the same thing needs to happen with AI products and machine learning. That when we build these products, we are asking our users to have that same sort of intuitive understanding of what's going on. And maybe we need to take our users on that journey. So let me show you a thing that we built at Xero. So someone's making a new bill, they're entering who it's from, we got a due date, putting in a description, what are they buying? Oh, they bought some flour. They bought one of them, and you see that? It popped up the account. It suggested what account they should enter. That was some machine learning right there. It's a real machine learning project in the wild. So you notice that we're not doing things for people exactly. We're making a suggestion which they can either accept by just tabbing through it, or they can go and change it and say, oh no, that's not right, and go and put in the correct one. But how do they know whether to do that or not? Should they trust us, or should they trust themselves? How would they make a decision on whether Xero is right or whether they're right? And how would they know how we came to that conclusion? When we built this, we didn't really know the answer to any of those questions. So we sort of embarked on a bit of a research project, talking to users, talking to our CX, people looking at some data, trying to understand how our users were relating to them. So we learned a lot from that, and I'm going to tell you some of the highlights of what we learned tonight. So this is our challenge. Your users probably don't understand your email product. We know that because our users definitely don't understand ours. So, this is the first question we had, the first of three, is how much do users trust our algorithm? And crucially, how much should they trust it? It's an interesting question, right? We don't know what the correct level of trust is. I'll show you how this question came up. When we first built this product, we had it running in the background, so we were making suggestions but not showing them to anyone. And what we'd do is we'd make this suggestion and then see what they actually entered and see how often we got it right. So we could check our accuracy at quite a granular level, and we were really pleased with the results. We got about 89% correct, which is to say 89% of the time what we would have suggested is actually what they ended up selecting in the end. So then we got brave and we started showing people these suggestions. So instead of just keeping it in the background, people were actually seeing a suggestion, and then would either keep that suggestion or change it. And we found we got more accurate. But what was happening was not that it was more accurate, it's that the suggestion we made was influencing the choice that people made. So some of the time, that'll be because they were going to do the wrong thing and we gave them the right choice. But then some of the time, we led them wrong. They would have chosen the right thing and we told them the wrong thing. And this opened up a whole can of worms for us, right? And what the whole sort of discipline of ML is sort of founded on this idea that there is a canonical correct answer. And actually, now that's really undermined all of that for us, that what correct means suddenly becomes quite nebulous. And we suddenly have this question of trust with our users, that they shouldn't trust us too much. And it also raised questions about how we treat the data that we're training our algorithm on. Because users enter incorrect data. Some of them are really bad at accounting. And so how do we detect that? And so this question of trust is a sort of a challenge for us. Spoiler, we don't really have a solution to this problem. So if you've got ideas, come find me after, I guess. So question 2, how do users think this works? What's the mental model that they use to decide how we came up with this? You know, how do they think that we go? So we talked to some users and we found there are 3 broad camps of mental model. They are, Xero knows about accounting, so it knows how I should code this. It's the idea that we've got some sort of generalized robot accountant sitting in the background looking at your accounts, making a decision. Right? Which is not unreasonable. We're an accounting firm, we should know about accounting. So then there's Xero looks at other businesses and then tells me to do the same thing that they do, right? That we learn from one business and apply it to them. And then there's a third, which is Xero makes a suggestion based on how I've coded things in the past. So you did it this way last time, you should do that again. As it happens, that's how we do it. We don't learn across organisations because different organisations have got really different accounting systems. It's very difficult to apply things across them. So most users actually do have the correct mental model, but we found there were substantial numbers that had some of these different mental models as well, which creates some risks, right? Because if users think that we know about accounting and we're suggesting accounting best practice to them, and then we get that wrong, then they lose a lot of trust in us. You know, and it started making me question, how can we, and also if they think that we're looking at other businesses, maybe they think that we're right and they're wrong, which is not the case at all. So having the right mental model is quite important for them in making the right decision about how they accept or reject these suggestions. So how do we design this product in a way that makes it clear how we came to these conclusions? So these 3 mental models are quite common, and the third one especially, but by far the most common mental model was this one. Which is to say, most of them didn't even realise we're doing machine learning at all. It didn't, well, if you remember that GIF, it's not exactly clear that we've done something extra smart there. It just seems like another part of Xero, which is kind of good in a way that we want our design to sort of be seamless, but it also carries a risk that the users aren't really aware that we've done something that might be wrong there. You know, they don't really know that something quite different has happened. And so that also became a risk. Like, is it right for us to design these email products in a seamless way? Should we be highlighting that there's an issue of trust? I don't know the right answer. Last question, how good is good enough? So while we were designing this thing, we were getting sort of 90% accuracy, and then we expanded it to cover some other cases. And then the accuracy dropped. It was sort of like 70% accurate or 75%. We're like, is that good enough? Well, we don't know. We don't even know how to answer that question. Is it better to show nothing at all or to show something wrong? We don't know. So what does good even mean? So this is kind of the model that I used to explain this. If previously they spent a whole bunch of time entering data and a little bit of time fixing problems, and now they're spending less time entering data and a little bit more time fixing problems, as long as the net time is less, that should be an improvement, right? But it turns out no. When you talk to users, they hate fixing problems. If you've done something wrong, they get really mad. That, yeah, they feel like they're marking your homework instead of doing their job. You know, they get furious about it. So there's different qualities to the amount of time spent, and we don't really have a good way of measuring that quality. And that's something that you can't answer with data. You've really got to talk to people. So in conclusion, I guess what I'm trying to advocate for is this idea that historically we've seen data science as this kind of thing, that we've got data and we do some cool algorithm and then we get some results. And that data scientists have sort of seen this as their domain. And I guess my argument is that, and what we're finding at Xero, is that actually this is our domain, that the data is generated by people, and that people are the people who have to interpret these results. And then as data scientists, we sort of need to understand these people. So that was me. Thank you very much.
Come back, Simon. I have some questions for you. Maybe some others do as well. Thank you very much for that. It was fantastic.
Cheers.
How and when, or I guess how did you decide to go live with the suggestions? What point, what thought, was there something that forced you into going, okay, we've just got to get it out there and see what happens? Or what was the thought process behind go live?
Yeah, I'm on camera, so I can't. I'm going to be a little bit circumspect.
Fair enough.
After considering the considerable impact on our users and the weighty responsibility we have to get things right, we decided that the level of accuracy we had was over a threshold that our product owner felt comfortable with. She was the one who was most familiar with our users, and so she felt comfortable with that. But it was a judgment call, and one that we didn't feel we had any data to back up. So it did become a leap of faith, I guess.
Leaps of faith, that's what we're at, which is fair enough. I mean, I'd say putting something into the wild when there's people involved, there's definitely faith involved. Any questions from the floor? Okay, go ahead.
I've got a suggestion, really. You asked how do you inform the users that you made a suggestion. Well, Google have already done that with autocomplete. So when the autocomplete comes up, it highlights in yellow. And most users are familiar with that kind of AI now. That's not really XMI. So you know what you're expecting when an autocomplete thing comes up. It goes yellow. Yeah, I know what that means. And I've not seen any other applications use that kind of feedback.
Yeah, it's really interesting that we're kind of starting to develop a visual language for ML. And I think design and data scientists really need to work together to understand it better. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. Try and get everybody on the same page.
Right.
So when you cut from one frame to another, they know how to read it and know what they're expecting to see.
Can I ask my question?
Go ahead.
First question, does it correctly or incorrectly identify unique names that it's never seen before, unique products? And second question, did you ever consider doing a K-fold in-analysis or running an A/B test to verify your feedback loop problem for your initial statement?
No, and no.
Go on.
Why do you call it machine learning if you can't identify unique names? Because it's not just a historical database that uses a cookie-like algorithm, just like Google. I mean, people be doing that for 10 years, right?
So it uses a logistic regression model in the background that...
Yeah, they calculate what the weight should be to do the category. But does Xero understand, or have an understanding of what a unique product actually is? For example, if I type a new brand, does it understand that's a brand of flour based on my extract that I've done for certain products?
Right, no, we did experiment with some semantic vectors for words and found that it added very little accuracy to the model.
But you can identify unique things, right?
We could, but it didn't substantially improve the model.
It's a different model.
Hi.
Well, just maybe a suggestion. You've obviously got the recoding, people can recode stuff, and particularly the accountant. Are you looking at using that as maybe an authority to help improve? Because otherwise you're going to amplify on my bad behavior.
Yeah, it's a really interesting suggestion. And the other thing, we're thinking about that and also looking at the role of the user who entered that data and trusting some data entered by more authoritative users more than other users. I guess the realities of product development is that often good enough is good enough. And so our opportunities to refine this are not exactly where we'd like them to be.
Well, we're not forgetting about.
Yeah.
Last question?
Thank you before.
So you said that it was based off of the data that the user used previously. Does that mean that there's like a threshold once there's an appropriate amount of data to train the algorithm on, that will show suggestions? Or?
That's right, yeah, and we did a lot of analysis on working out where that threshold should be. Again, but again, based on a gut feel about where the accuracy got to after a certain point in time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sam.
Cheers.
Thank you. I guess that's certainly one of the downsides of working with one of the biggest companies in Wellington is people know all about your stuff and have an opinion and a question. So thank you very much for getting up here, much appreciated, and there was certainly some really interesting insights in there. So next we've got Kameron, my co-founder at Intela, and he's a very sexy man talking about a very unsexy solution to dirty data. So hands together for Kameron, please.
I didn't realize Asa will be questioning me after this. I have tactics for avoiding questions with Asa. So I'm the CTO, co-founder at Intela AI. We're a data science company here. But can I just get a hand show of how many AI data science practitioners are here? Nerds. How about data enthusiasts and LinkedIn posters? And any statisticians? Yep.
Nobody else for that.
Sorry to hear that, bro. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about unsexy solution to a dirty problem. And I'll talk a bit about Intela and what we do, but I'll also talk specifically about our product called Fargo, which is an intelligent data management tool. So these are my co-founders. Ignore them. I'm in the center. I'm the center of the data universe. It's all about me tonight. So no, my co-founder Asa here, he has over 20 years of experience in business and technology strategy and running startups. And Emma has brought a wealth of experience, and she's our operations guru, as I like to call her, but also keeping me in order. And my background is a data scientist. I was engineering, neuroscience, the whole gamut of it. I worked at AI, I worked for Google, I worked for NSF, doing research. So Intela, we were started maybe about 2 years ago. And we worked the gamut of professional services and also product development. So we worked in machine vision, we've worked in task automation, we work in machine learning. We have a team of tremendous data scientists from all over the world, PhDs, masters, solving all the problems that anybody can throw at us. And it's a lot of fun for a data scientist to be honest. Though I have to do a lot with the administrative aspects of these things. Yeah, so we're a research and IP development firm. We develop proof of concepts for a lot of government clients and also private sector clients as well. So we've done a lot with New Zealand banks. We do social media analytics. We do unstructured text mining for accounting firms. We do animal video analysis. We do anti-money laundering. How many of you guys are into money laundering? Yes, me too. So I'm in control of that. Talk to me if you need some help. We do single view of customer, and this is really what I'm going to talk about today. We do some churn intervention. Churn is huge, both on the employee side and on the customer side. What's the strategy for keeping customers? What's the strategy for keeping employees? What's the signals that they're about to leave? Those sorts of things. We develop models for identifying clothing and fashion and those sorts of things from CCTV. And we've also done a lot in fruit counting, so agriculture is obviously quite huge here. The product I'm going to talk about today is Fargo. So I've heard some figures, but my figures are a bit different. So some people say you spend 80% of your time as a data scientist cleaning data. I agree with that part, but then they say that the next 20% is developing algorithms. The next 20% for me is complaining about cleaning data. That's what I do the rest of the time. So no machine learning actually gets done. So yeah, the problem with messy data is it creates bad customer experiences. It causes delays in software migration. and it stops the actual cool stuff from being done. So all that stuff you guys post on LinkedIn that I read constantly, unfortunately, is not possible without the work we're doing. So we call it not sexy, but it's high utility and it's high impact. So this next slide talks a bit about the Fargo product, but since there are a lot of practitioners here, I'll skip this and I'll go backwards. Sit down. So we developed this tool basically for our clients. We work with a lot of local government, and they have to deal with messy data. So we have to identify things in that data like duplicates. We have to clean that data. We have to discover the single source of truth, those sorts of things. So we developed this tool using active learning. Some of the solution specifications are here. So we had to develop a solution for automated matching of duplicates. Duplicates rather within a single database or across multiple databases, discovering that single source of truth. We had to develop automatic schema analysis, so we get fed with a schema, with a table or our database, and we need to analyze the schema to know what we're interpreting. Our solution had to be data agnostic, so you need to be able to add whatever data you have to our solution, and it needs to work. It was limited. We'll have limited new training data on this, so the system needs to be adapted relatively quickly, the machine learning system, to whatever input you add to it. We need to scale, and there's performance and cost trade-offs, and it needs to be deployable in the client's cloud, whether that's in AWS or whatever. We're pretty much platform agnostic, but some of these things need to be based in the local cloud. So that's kind of the starting point for our roadmap. So now I'll go back to the video, and Asa, if you can go and do what you do.
Yes, awesome.
It's great ordering your CEO around that. So Fargo is this tool for data duplication and data cleansing, and it relies a lot on the idea of active learning. How many of you guys know active learning? So the client actually gets to participate in the process of training the model. It helps us narrow down the training process, our tool, and it also gives the client some empowering in terms of letting them make some decisions about what their data actually does. So we load data into the Fargo product. They get to look at different data aligned with each other, and they get to determine what a duplicate is for them. So that could be something as simple as a misspelling, but it can be a completely different format. And I'll talk a bit more about some of those specific issues we have with addresses, and addresses can be in completely different formats. They can look, so we have to have the intelligence behind that to be able to process that sort of information. At the end of the process, we output a map, basically, what changes you need to make to your actual data to get everything linked up in a single view of customer. And we also recommend potential schema transformations. We can also do that transformation for you. So yeah, I mean, definitely check out Fargo. I'll talk a bit more about how you can do that. The demos online, and also you can register. So I talked a bit about what the solution required. I showed you a bit about Fargo itself. Now some of the challenges, domain specific, like I talked about addresses. Addresses come in all sorts of forms. I mean, it can be anything from a 10A to a 10B are those different addresses. You can't use just generic metrics for comparing these things. So we had to come up with a lot of different sources for dealing with those types of issues. Another thing is understanding context. So when you deal with free text, you can often get context from the sentence that the text belongs to and all these sorts of things. In databases, that context is not so easy. So you need to be able to understand the schema, you need to understand the data itself, and there's a lot of different ML tools that we use to do that. You can't use any pre-tuned models. And then there's the UI, UX. So what's the customer experience? So they want to have some power in determining how you analyze their data. How do we present that to them in a way that they feel most comfortable, but also gives us what we need in terms of training our algorithms? What's the perceived value? How do we create an experience that the customers can understand the value of what they're doing? Securing the data, securing the code. How do you secure customer data? We're dealing with a lot of government agencies, a lot of private sectors that have very strict security concerns, and we need to be able to deal with that. And open and integratable models. So our models need to be transferable to whatever platform you're on at any time. Some of the technical high-level stuff, I am not going to go into very low detail because that's just not part of my personality. But we work in a stack that includes Python, React, Redux, Node.js, and that's just in producing the actual interface for people to work with these things. We borrow from concepts in regression, concepts in clustering, understanding text relevance in terms of deciding what's the most important, the most significant fields that contribute to this being a duplicate, those sorts of things. Rule theory, and also automated infrastructure. So yeah, lots more we can talk about, but I'll have to cue you. Some challenges with solutions to be determined, as I tell Asa. The deployment of code on premise outside of AWS, so we're considering things like blockchain, and considering things like homomorphic encryption for that. The level of active user training needed. So, I mean, people obviously want to feel that our clients often want to feel that they're contributing somehow to the algorithm so that they can feel comfortable. But the reality is, as the algorithm learns more and more, it really doesn't need that much human training involved. So that's part of the user experience part of it. And then pricing models. Pricing models are always a challenge. How do you sell the value of what you're doing? Yeah. So what's next for us? I mean, we're working on the enterprise solution for this. We're working on that next. No, we have a solution in place, but ASA cannot know that. And we have automated business rules generation for standardization of data and merging of data. Often when you get data from different clients and they get data from different clients, they're in all different sorts of forms and standardizations. Automated schema analysis is something we've worked on and are planning to incorporate into the system, and transformation recommendations for your actual data. So at the moment, we're looking for early adopters, clients, and collaborators on this product, Fargo. So yeah, if you have questions about Fargo in general or anything like that, just contact me. My email's up here, and also we have a website for all the other services that we do. Are you gonna? Jeez, he didn't prepare me for this at all. So.
I'm not going to ask any questions because I'll suffer the consequences. So, anybody got any questions? Yeah.
I mean, how many of the data problems are unique amongst your clients, and are they all suffering the same kind of problems, or is everyone completely different?
There are some unique problems, but there are some problems also that we can generalize in a sense. So it might be unique to their data, but it's a problem that we can generalize a solution to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so is there a service element on top of that to make sure that you can integrate?
At the moment, yeah. At the moment, yes. As we get more and more clients on board, we develop the system more and more, and it becomes even more generalized and able to adapt to those kind of caveats and edge cases that we encounter.
Are you able to speak a little bit more about how you use homomorphic encryption? As I understand, it's pretty slow. And what do you use it for, I guess?
Yeah, it's more so, I mean, we have often clients that have security concerns. So it's either they're not trusting with their data, they think their IT dinosaurs are more capable of protecting their data than we are, or sorry, I don't hold punches. Or they're not willing to deploy their stuff on cloud and all these things. So often what we have to do is come up with alternative solutions for them doing that, and homomorphic encryption is one solution for that. I mean, encrypting the data in a way that they know the original data, they don't know the trend, it protects our IP at the same time. Yeah.
Thank you. How does it deal with missing data? Does it synthesize anything, or?
No, we don't. At the moment, we have a few different, it depends on the type of data, really, to be honest.
So you looked into general language for data synthesis?
Yeah, so dealing with, for GANs, you said?
Yeah, for GAN, like have you visualized steps on GANs and
Yeah, so you're talking about filling with median value or our
It's
nets are.
neural network, a deep learning network using
Yeah.
long-term short memory cells to generate unique data sets, not just media narratives.
At the moment, we have some solutions in place that are a bit more intelligent than the traditional. So that if you know the traditional the methods of doing it, you fill with zero, you fill with median, you fill with mean, you fill with the nearest neighbors sort of values. We have some specific intelligent techniques, and I think you are on the right track with that in terms of filling that sort of data in. I can't go into detail about that.
What are your on-prem solutions? And if you don't have any, how do you work in government?
On-prem solutions.
Yeah.
The government works with us, by the way. We work with them. Wait a second. I'm calling shots here. We have on-prem solutions. So our solution itself, we are able to deploy in the cloud, but we're also able to deploy locally. Yeah.
Okay, last question.
I'm interested in your address problems. I've spent a long time working with addresses. Do you use GIS to solve that, or is it more attribution that you're looking at?
In what sense?
So you're looking at geographic address location using a GIS?
Yeah, so there's a lot of transformations we actually have to do to the address itself when we get it in. Because the addresses often come in different forms and they could refer to different things. One can be a local address, one can be a place address. And we've come up with a lot of different techniques to identify what the information actually is that we're dealing with and how to properly transform it and what's the best for comparing the two addresses. I mean, we deal with databases from, maybe 100 different clients that refers to the same place, and how do you merge those together? So we have automated recognition of the type of data, and then we transform it in that sense to better.
So the transformation there is quite interesting. That's how you do this kind of stuff.
That's where especially with addresses. There's
one more. Okay,
questions.
one more.
Just a comment you said there about pulling data from different sources, different organisations, the same place. Are people starting to see the value of different organisations getting this data in the same format?
Yeah.
And the obvious opportunities that you can spin off the back of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge. I mean, there are so many sources, and you often find that a lot of the sources offer things that other sources don't. And if you can combine those all into that single source of truth,
especially government, right? They're all in the same team.
Apparently. So apparently, if you look at their data, it's completely in different formats and different standardizations, and so that's huge value for them. Cool.
Thank you, Cam.
Awesome.
I have no idea how hard that was not to jump into all those questions. Thanks, Cam. Okay, so that's the end of the part where these guys do the talking, and now it's over to you guys to really begin to help each other, to get more interactive, to really begin to explore a couple of the problems that have been posed. It's really time to get interactive. This is what we try and do in this event to make it a little bit different from the traditional conferences. So we've got a couple of challenges that have been presented. Marcus has put forward a challenge. He says he's not an AI expert. It is a kind of a business problem or a domain problem. What rubrics, and I love that word, rubrics, that's why I chose this challenge, it was great, can best identify business problems where AI will add value. From a perspective of somebody that's talking to a lot of companies about how to apply AI and the strategy for applying AI, I can tell you this is one of the biggest problems that most organizations, large and small, are dealing with. What is the best business case? What is the one to start moving things forward? So very broad topic, but really quite interesting. Tom's here as well, and I won't ask you to get up. And this is certainly something which came out and something which Drew very much spoke about. How do you decide between a defendable model or that was Russia just hacking into my computer. Deciding between defendable models or a black box solution. And that comes up with government agencies, that comes up all over the place. as transparency is required, and quite rightly so, but then you've got the balance of that with IP protection. So it's a really interesting dynamic, really interesting debate. They are both very broad, and therefore everybody should be able to pitch in. We're going to have two groups. We're going to have one group staying here. We're not going to divide the room or anything. You can go to the one that you think you may be more interested in or can contribute more to. So we'll have one group that stays in here, and one group goes over there. Tom, if you don't mind going over there. There'll be a couple of facilitators, myself, Alan, Gianna, and Laura, if she's here somewhere. I think there'll be 4 facilitators that will help move things along. We've got a couple of whiteboards, and we want to try and put a little bit of structure behind it. And really the first point is that the person who put the challenge forward isn't necessarily the only one who knows all of the answers, and actually may not be able to completely define the problem either. So the first step is for you to all brainstorm style pitch in to help define the problem and to be able to put some of those ideas forward. Secondly, again, in brainstorming fashion, what are the possible solutions? So rather than going deep down one possible solution, especially a technical solution, maybe looking at more less technical solutions, let's get all of the possible solutions from the group. And then in the final step, to begin to analyze or refine some of those solutions for those who want to go a little bit deeper into that space. There are still going to be nibbles, so long as people at the back haven't devoured them during the talks. You look guilty, really guilty. And then the bar will be open. However, I would very strongly ask that you grab a drink and go discuss, and don't just stay at the bar and forget about the discussion part. We will be allocating about 30 minutes to this, maybe 45, depending on how good they go. For those that were here last time, the discussion about MPI use of AI went way long, and people were just like cocooned in here for a while. But so we will, feel free if you get terribly bored or stuck in a conversation you don't want to have. We are here to network as well afterwards. So please do participate as much as you can, because that's what makes this event kind of special. So Tom will go into the other room. If you are going to go in there, you need to take your chair, and that would be great, or you can stand, whatever. So deciding between defendable models or black box solutions is in that room, and Marcus will be here about rubrics. So let's divide and conquer the world.
As maybe a step in the direction of giving them the trust and credibility.
Yeah, I mean, we found that the trust was increased if they could play with.
Yes.
And also they got to see the inputs that we use. I mean, it was easy in our case because they're paying us, so we don't mind showing them the inputs we're using. But our customers demand a certain level of transparency.
Should, for example, if I'm paying for my data and my data is private, could you show me the data sets that you've collected and the data that you've got on my thing, so I can actually check to see whether or not that's actually true or not? Have you, so I can check.
Clear is the question, but that's part of the process.
If you look at it from a consulting perspective, you've got how do I save money, how do I get more customers, how do I get improve efficiencies, which kind of may improve budget. So it's very meta level. But then do you go after core systems and operations? Do you go after UX, UI?
It's technical feasibility, data availability, how long it would take to build a solution.
The current transparency of how the black box decisions are made, and the customer must trust the process. You've got trust that's increased with transparency. So this is again back to the scale, back to understanding a bit more about, well, if you move these scales, that's by providing a small amount of transparency. Hey, thanks everyone. I think it's time for a drink. Enjoy yourselves. Great stuff.
So much money to configure it. It might not have been
There's so
There's no